welcome to We the People. On the program today, we saw the government's unwillingness to come out of the closet when it came to the issue of homosexuality. A week that saw intense confusion in the courts, with the government's lawyers saying one thing and the Home Ministry saying quite another when it comes to the issue of decriminalising homosexuality. We're looking today on We the People at a larger question. Does any state, any government have the right to legislate the personal choices made by consenting adults? Does the state have the right to be, in other words, inside your bedroom? Many gay rights activists have said no, wanting the Delhi High Court judgment that decriminalised homosexuality to now be upheld across the country. But what happens when the same principle is applied to many other choices, whether it comes to the institution of marriage or other forms of alternative sexuality? Should the state, in other words, get out of the bedroom? Let me start with Manish Tiwari, if I may. Manish, you're not just here as a Congress spokesperson, you're many other things. You're a lawyer. You're also a young politician. I think for many of us, there is a sort of disappointment that younger politicians across party lines haven't been able to mark a generational shift to reflect how all of us have changed our views on these things. Maybe our parents, our grandparents have had another view. That's okay. It happens in all societies. But we expect younger people like yourselves to reflect a more forward-looking way of thinking. Why are people like yourselves not able to take a categorical position on issues such as decriminalising homosexuality?
You've raised an important question as to why you see activism, which cuts across the board in legislatures or in parliament on, let's say, contentious social issues, which to some extent define the social mores of maybe the times that we live in. And to be very honest with you, I really don't have an answer to that. And the reason why I don't have an answer, because I don't think that I'm really empowered to speak on behalf of all my colleagues.
You're empowered to speak on behalf of yourself.
Well, insofar as I'm concerned, I think the simplest thing to have done is that after the High Court judgment came and the government decided that we are not going to contest the High Court judgment, you should have just moved an amendment and repealed 377 and, made alternative arrangements within 376 or, brought in another section which would have sort of dealt with the criminality of that. That would have taken care of
Why has that not happened? Before I get Pinaki's perspective, where are the stumbling blocks? Is it that politicians worry that they have to play to multiple constituents and multiple constituencies, and many of those constituents are uncomfortable with the fact that there are now many kinds of sexuality that are out in the open?
Well, you're absolutely correct, because there are large sections of India which are extremely conservative on these issues. I do not say by conservative that they are hostile to the concept or they are hostile to the idea. Maybe in the sense they are just agnostic towards the whole thing and they would rather, like it left like that. And so therefore, I think the political class per se, or at least the legislative part of the political class, reflects that agnosticism, by not really taking a position.
Pinaki, is that reasonable? Because, a lot of people, and even in the United States of America, for example, when it comes to the whole debates about gays serving in the military, which is now being reversed. But for many years, it was like, just look the other way. Don't ask, don't tell. And Manish, in a way, seems to be suggesting that instead of taking these issues to court, instead of asking the courts to take a view, instead of asking the politicians to legislate, just let people's private lives be. Gay rights activists would turn around and say, that would be fine if this weren't a basis for harassment. Because when you call somebody's personal choice criminal, it becomes an excuse for the thulla to enter your bedroom.
Can I answer? Let me first congratulate Manish. For the first time I've seen him not prevaricating on an issue. He's actually
rare compliment.
He's actually said that the government should have done something which it hasn't done. In fairness, now,
this is not really a compliment.
It is.
It is a compliment.
These are insults which I've got used to over a period of time.
But
you have a sense of humor too. Another compliment.
Look, paragraph 132 of the judgment clearly says we read down section 377 of the IPC, but we expect the government to act on the Law Commission's report, implement it, and therefore make suitable alterations. So they've only read down 377, this judgment. Unfortunately, the political class as a whole has gotten too used to letting the courts decide
outsource their job to the judges.
There is no doubt about it. I lament this. I say this with a deep sense of regret that the political class, as usual, is failing the system. The Parliament should have really stepped in immediately and brought about an amendment. We have not done this. It's unfortunate, but I guess everybody's waiting now for the Supreme Court to sort of, give the imprimatur to a fabulous judgment by the High Court.
So, Justice Mudgal, that's a very interesting point being made here, that the Delhi High Court actually provided the political class with a cue that they could have, a building block, and they could have built on that. They weren't able to do it, perhaps for reasons of political expediency, nervousness, wariness, whatever. Now the matter is back in the courts. From a judge's perspective, sir, do you believe, and that's my larger question today, that issues that take place between two consenting adults, and I obviously emphasize consenting adults again and again, are they really within the jurisdiction of law? Because to me, that strikes me as a larger question emanating from this debate, sir.
If our Section 377 stands, then obviously they are within the purview. But what the High Court has done is not struck down 377. It has only said that it will not apply to consenting adults.
Yeah.
Now, I must compliment the government for not filing an appeal. This showed maturity and moving with the times. But unfortunately, as you want to know a judge's perspective, since the matter is pending, I wouldn't like to go into the judgment itself. I was just telling you the bare fact. But the right to privacy has been recognized by the Supreme Court as far back as 1975, where it was said that any right to privacy must encompass and protect the personal intimacies of the home, the family, marriage, motherhood, procreation, and child rearing. Now, the Supreme Court has laid down this law.
But, sir, what does a judge do in issues of morality? And this doesn't happen just with gay rights and decriminalising homosexuality. The current laws on adultery, for example, have been challenged in court as well. The fact that, for example, you could theoretically be sent to prison for 5 years or fined for adultery seems like a really antiquated law. On the other side, people would argue that it is the job of the courts to uphold some fabric of social order. So I'm just wondering where the middle ground is between those two things.
The judge has to balance the upholding of the social fabric. But the other thing is, as far as the laws of privacy are concerned and modern thought, please remember, the mature democracy is purviewed as a democracy which tolerates dissent, which tolerates alternate lifestyles, which tolerates lifestyle which you abhor. But that's the greatness of our Constitution. It is an inclusive and developing Constitution. The Indian Penal Code was formulated in 1860. So we are celebrating the 150th year. So there are many provisions which need to be looked into by the Parliament for a comprehensive review and strike them down, because societal norms develop as a democracy grows.
But that's the important point, sir, that Parliament has to strike them down, and Parliament has virtually outsourced many of its more complicated choices to the judiciary, and they then complain about judicial overreach.
Now you're actually opening the contours of a larger debate.
But it's true.
About why Parliament, has no right to really crib about judicial overreach.
Yeah, when it doesn't take decisions.
Which actually opens up a whole larger issue for debate, but we'll leave that for another day.
Okay, quickly.
I just want to quickly add to what Justice Mudgal said. This 377, the anachronistic, provisions of it, nature of it, Barkha, actually what it simply sanctifies is penile vaginal intercourse. As a practicing heterosexual, actively, sexual heterosexual, 99.99% of India is, a criminal, because oral sex is banned.
But that's a thought to chew on, as it were. But if I can get a perspective now from somebody who lives as a gay person in India, Onir, you're out as a gay filmmaker. Many of your films have reflected your sexual orientation, your views on the subject. I want you to pick up on something interesting that's been suggested by Manish here, that there is sometimes a kind of don't ask, don't tell. Justice Mudgal says, mature of the government to not challenge the verdict. How important is it for gay people to hear a categorical position? Is it not enough when we say, let the state get out of the bedroom? Who cares whether the state has a categorical view as long as they leave people alone to live their lives in the way they want to?
I think it's important, to be left alone, but at the same time, it's important not to be forced to be invisible. I mean, I don't believe in the thing that, you keep quiet and you don't express, who you are, and then it's all fine.
You see no reason to hide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that as a citizen of the country, I have the right, like every other citizen, to be open about myself because I'm not ashamed of it.
But some would say sexuality is a private thing. Heterosexuals, I'm giving you a counter argument. I don't feel this. I've signed on to the petition. I have to make full disclosure as the anchor of the show. I've signed on to the petition to decriminalize homosexuality many years ago. But I'm giving you a counter view. The counter view is some would say sexuality is an intensely private thing. Heterosexuals don't need state acknowledgement. Why do gay people need it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that I don't believe that it is a private thing totally. I mean, you could be just holding hands with another guy walking down the street. It's not just about having sexual intercourse. Yeah. So it's not only about having sexual intercourse that makes it about, I mean, intimacy. I think there's so many things that you cannot do as a gay person. You know, express your affection, your love, which is also your sexuality, just because it's not... and
then that's an important point. Why be pushed to live on the margins? Why be rendered invisible? But is that what happens? Rose, if I can take this to you, in a way, your choices have been even more unconventional. You're a transgendered person who hosts a television show in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil, you deal every night with issues of sexuality on television. And I'm just wondering... where you find that balance between saying my private choices are mine, but at the same time, many people who are gay or transgendered do like to wear their sexuality on their sleeves. I don't know if that's their way of asserting a sort of statement. What are the issues you've dealt with vis-a-vis the law, vis-a-vis the state? How difficult has it been for you?
Okay, being a transgender person, or for that matter, even gay in India is very difficult. And let me be honest with you, it's not just in India. I've lived around the world, and it's a difficult issue, a difficult lifestyle everywhere.
You studied in America, haven't you?
Yes, even in the US as well as in London.
And how do the experiences compare?
Only over the last 15 to 20 years do you see a visible fight for freedom, fight for equality across the world, 20 to 35 years. What has happened to people, gay people, before that is something for everyone's imagination. It's very difficult for transgender people and gay people in India, and I believe it's part of, it's the main reason that discrimination happens to this day is probably because it's all written in the holy books that we all so, you know, divinely, you know, follow, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it comes from there. And just before I take that back to the politicians, what do you expect from the law?
The law has been used for a long time to harass people that have different sexual orientations and gender identities. And so it gives the police the upper hand. Yeah. And I've been a victim of that several times, and my friends have been too. I'm totally against any form of, you know, restriction of sexuality. I mean, sexuality is someone's personal choice. I mean, I'm not asking for everybody to come out in the open and walk nude and have sex in the public, but to a certain extent, sexuality is everyone's private affair that the government and the state has nothing to do with.
Can I quickly get Manish and Pinaki on that before I go around the panel? What you're hearing is not enough to say we look the other way.
Well, I wasn't saying that we look the other way. I categorically said we should decriminalize it.
No, but the political class, you said that. But I'm saying the political class is looking the other way. The government is looking the other way.
Even insofar as the political class is saying, I was only answering the question of agnosticism, you know, which you had raised. You know, I was trying to sort of provide an explanation. I do not know how good I was at that. But I essentially do believe that it should be decriminalized. And after that, I don't think the state has the right to really intrude into people's bedrooms. As also, I think people generally, you know, need to respect, I will not call it decorum, but for the lack of a better word, you know, I would use that terminology, you know, and a decorum meaning that...
A kind of cultural code.
No, not a cultural code, that we respect your right and you respect the right of other people to live in the manner that you want to.
The NDTV News app had redefined the entire genre. Now, another market beater. It's already hit #1.
NDTV Profit, India's #1 finance app. Download free at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Live stream of NDTV Profit, market news, and your easy-to-manage portfolio. Download now, ndtvprofit.com/apps.